Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Anime Watch Club, a bi-weekly group discussion and review where the hosts of What You Say Anime podcasts nominate and vote on shows either we haven't seen or shows that hopefully lead to a great discussion. On today's episode, the frauds of the What You Say Anime podcast will be reviewing the 2016 anime Mob Psycho 100 Season 1. Let's meet today's Espers. First up, his special move mirrors that of Dale Gribble and Reigen. Assault to the eyes and a tap to the sack. We got Jay. Jay, how's it going?
Recently learned that if everyone is not special, then maybe I can be who I want to be. That's new to me.
Well, I believe in you. Next up, our first moderator of the night. His special attack is that of a Colombian mother raised in Cape Cod and whomps people with Sperry's. We got Miles. Miles, how's it going?
It's going well. I enjoyed rewatching the show.
Damn, nothing about hitting people with Sperry. All right, cool.
Look, man, I don't know.
That's fair. Just leave me out to dry. It's all good. And then we also have Kat, who's here, but he showed up late, so he doesn't get an intro, but he's here, and Pat. Pat, take it away.
Yeah, guys, welcome. We're finally doing it. I'm finally was forced to watch Mob Psycho 100. But only been being told to watch this show since it aired in 2016, the summer 2016 season, more specifically, done by Studio Bones, which is a very popular studio around here amongst our group as well. So yeah, why don't we get into our first impressions right off the bat? Miles, what have you got, and would you recommend this show?
Yeah, so I first got this show as one of our Secret Santa shows. Whenever the first year we did that was. So I watched the first season and then the second season because I liked it. I had a good time pretty much the whole way through. I think the early episodes are a pretty good indication of what you're going to get. There's a little bit added to it here and there. There's some character arcs, there's some depth, all that normal story stuff. But for the most part, when you're a few episodes into this, if you like it, you're going to like it throughout. And if maybe you're not a fan, I would probably give up. That being said, I think most people enjoy the show. I would definitely recommend it. So thumbs up here.
There you go. All right, Kat, what about you?
Man, this is one of those shows that I started watching when I was really getting into anime. And the thing about it is that it encapsulated me the first time that I watched it because it was very similar to One Punch Man, but it wasn't just fun, dumb comedy. It was also it's also has a deeper meaning into it that genuinely does teach people, which is the main thing I like about shonen. I genuinely think that this show is a great example of a shonen that can genuinely uplift and teach people, and I would absolutely recommend it 100% to anybody.
Clicked the wrong button there. There we go. All right, cool. I clicked on the chat button instead. Oh, we love mobile Discord. Jay, what about you?
Yeah, so I nominated this because it's something that I had watched a while ago, kind of paused watching it because I started watching other stuff. I didn't dislike it at all when I first started watching it, but on a rewatch, I kind of learned to enjoy it quite a bit more just by, kind of realize it, watching from the start after having watched 8 episodes or so, it was interesting to have an idea of where Mob's character was going to end up, know more about Reigen. I'd already known quite a bit about Reigen just because, it's pretty much impossible to escape knowing about Reigen if you're in the anime community. He has one hella, sexiest character on Tumblr polls.
Twink Supreme.
Yeah. Best twink, best MILF, that sort of thing. He's one of... And every time, I believe a celebrity died when he won them, too. That was really interesting. But enough about that. I think, this show has so much potential. I think that's really what the first couple episodes and, the season as a whole, for me, kind of showed me. I'm kind of echoing Miles here and what he said about Musume. But, I think that this is something to watch if you're interested in watching the whole thing, because the first season kind of feels definitely like an intro. It could have been a 2-core or something like that, if that makes sense. So I think that my first impressions are recommend this to anybody who's willing to go in for the long haul and just watch the whole thing, I think, because I don't think you'll be, you're going to want more.
I agree as well that it's definitely you get a feel for it too pretty quickly. I think like you just said as well, where like if you're not loving it after the first few episodes, then maybe don't keep going. But I feel like it does just continue to improve. Pete, what about you?
Yeah, I absolutely adore this show. I mean, I have fucking Mob tattooed on my arm, if that means anything. The first couple episodes, I think, for season 1, I think this is going into it knowing that the whole thing gets entirely adapted and knowing that season 1 is sort of a setup for the entire story. I think that helps a lot, but I think just coming into this type of show, it's something that veterans can watch. I think you can get sucked in with a lot of the things that they do in this. It's very technical. It's produced very well. But I also think this is a very good like intro anime as well. It has a lot of elements to hit a bunch of different people. It's funny. It has good action. I think the characters are incredible. And I think just the mix of that, it's something that I can personally recommend to almost every single person. And it's one of my favorite stories of all time. So of course I'm going to absolutely recommend this to pretty much if your heart's beating, I'm probably recommending the show to you.
Slight to me.
What?
Could you making fun of my heart condition?
Yeah.
Oh. I was like, wait a minute. What? Oh, yeah, that's it.
If you have heart problems, I would not recommend the show to you.
It's a bit epileptic too. The show.
I was about to say if you have seizure problems, I also might not recommend the show. Honestly.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So I have been having this show recommended to me for forever. I've avoided it partly because nothing I'd ever really seen like made it seem super up my alley, and then also the psychics bit. You know, it's a bit, but it's also reality for me. But it's a bit of a bit as well. However, I would recommend this show. Like I like what Pete said too about it being very good for beginners. I think it has those anime things, but they're easier to, I guess, stomach with this show. You know, there's pretty much no like fan service or anything, and like none of the weird anime tropes are really apparent in the show, and the ones that are pretty mild and tame. So yeah, and I would recommend the show. I think to pretty much anybody. Yeah, a lot of comedy, a lot of good action if that's what you're into, and I am pretty curious to see where the story continues. I don't know if I'm going to be picking up the second season right away, but if it gets given to me, I'm not gonna be upset either. So yeah, I guess that's our first impressions. It sounds like 5 recommends, except for those with epilepsy and or heart problems like Miles apparently. So let's get into our spoiler part of the review. And Miles, do you have our first talking point?
Yeah, I sure do. Pause for edit. No, I'm just So what I think, I guess like my idea of the core of this show and why I thought Pat would like it is because to me, and I'm curious about everyone else's take here, the psychic powers themselves are like one very obviously like a metaphor for like a personal journey of sorts and like a maybe like a potential thing, or you know, they're viewed as Reigen says, just like another attribute in this. And to me, what really makes this show is like Mob's character and it's a coming of age story, right? And him trying to figure out what he wants to do. And as he's someone who's already about as strong with these psychic powers as you literally can be, like we haven't really seen anyone who's stronger than him when he is, you know, at that like 100 level. To me, what really made me enjoy the story was like his interactions with his classmates or his brother and stuff was sort of without the context of the psychic powers and stuff. But I'm curious about, you know, because Pat was just joking about like how he doesn't like that and stuff. But I just want to see what everyone thought like the heart of the show was for them.
For me personally, the heart of the show for me is the genuine desire to gain true strength, whether that be through emotional means or physical means, not necessarily leaning on the one thing that is kind of like a cheat code for you, because you can see that in the idea of the show where it's like literally the only real times where Mob uses his powers are when he's forced to be pushed to that point. And it's kind of like I've been looking at a lot of like a manosphere and issues with people who aren't able to really mesh well in society, and they have troubles dealing with stuff, so they want something that they can that is just like a cheat code for them. This is kind of like speaking to them personally about, hey, this is something where you like there is an easy way out, but it won't necessarily help you in the long run if you don't actually gain these skills physically. And of course, there's suspension of disbelief in that because Mob is, of course, like an all powerful psychic or all powerful expert. But the spirit of the show for me comes from the morals that it kind of teaches of that really real power comes through effort and strength, not through given gifts.
I can
Okay,
kind of
great. I
bounce
love
off
that.
that a little bit because
Go ahead.
it's like the morals with, I think, just like the core relationships between the characters themselves, specifically the core of being Kageyama, and sort of how him learning different things from different people is sort of his coming of age. It reminded me a lot of like Fooly Cooley, where like the whole story of Fooly Cooley is like an allegory for like puberty. I don't think this is like necessarily puberty, but it has a little elements to that because like, you know, like his dad makes a joke of like, he can go ahead and bed spoons. He's going through puberty. Like, it's okay. Let the boys be boys type of thing. And I thought that was kind of like the element, but I think it was more of a Mob sort of realizing like who he is as a person more than just like a specific moment in time. And just with the different things that he learns from everybody in his core group, whether it's more of like family elements through Ritsu, whether it's like his core principles as an Esper through Reigen. Like, even though like you see Reigen as a fraud, he's the one who sort of develops Mob's entire morality of him being a psychic. So is Reigen like necessarily a fraud? And I like that conversation of like he's actually teaching, like he's actually like an incredible teacher. And so like with the relationships that Mob has throughout the story, I think is just like the core fundamental of Mob Psycho itself.
Yeah, I like that. I would say though, as far as like puberty goes, as in where like puberty is viewed as like a period of time where you're like figuring out who you want to be and all of that, and like, you know, not for everyone, but it's like a pretty common that like you try to figure that out as you go through those like biological changes and everything. Like a lot of Mob's motivation is sort of like, oh, I want to like at first it's like I want to be popular, right? Which is like a very puberty era, the middle school kid motivation, which I find very like fun. Though psychic powers, I would say, would make you insanely popular.
Yeah.
You know, I think there is a lot of that in there. Like a lot of the characters that we see going through this are like adolescents, so I do think it's a pretty big theme. Anyone else have anything to say on the topic?
Well, I know you kind of started the topic talking about I guess the psychic powers and stuff, and as the resident psychic expert here, you know, the fanatic that I am, I thought, like you said, it's definitely it is a metaphor in the story, but I really enjoyed, in particular, Mob's brother Ritsu, or however he is referred to later in the story. I really enjoyed his journey with the psychic powers, and I thought it was cool how it was showing how different people in Mob's life are impacted by them or are involved in them. I mean, every single character in this show is great. Like they all have their own personality. They all have their own like twist to them that makes them unique and interesting. I can't even think of a single character that I didn't like from the start. And I think that that's a really a good testament to the show, but it's also just it shows how they were able to use the psychic powers as a way to kind of have them all have a common, I guess, enemy, but like a common thread between all of the characters. And I thought they did a really good job tying it together with the show. I didn't love all of the parts of the psychic powers in this show, but that's not surprising knowing me.
Yeah, I would say like they're often used to like express something about the character, like in a way, right? Like Ritsu, for example, you know, you see Mob being overflown with like emotion and like not being able to handle stuff, and like that's when the powers sort of like come out of him. And same thing with like Risu was like very well put together until he started doing sort of shady stuff with the student council president, and like that guilt and like that sort of feeling of like corruption and getting away of something sort of awoken that in him, which I thought was like an interesting way to develop that, because his jealousy of Mob was maybe, I mean, I would say it was almost certainly misplaced due to why Mob is as powerful as he is, being his inability to like properly express himself. I don't know, I thought it was pretty interesting.
Did anyone else think that Ritsu was the older brother until they said something? Because like it took to like the 7th episode of the show for me to be like, oh, was that it must have been a mistranslation that they say he's the younger one. Like no, he is the younger brother.
I think that's on purpose.
Yeah, I think
it's
that
the
is
lampshade of the cool older brother, I assume.
Well, I just because he's on the student council and he talks about wanting to do well for Mom. Like I don't know. I thought it would have been. I think it almost makes more sense for him to be jealous of the older brother, and I don't know. I guess it makes sense both ways, because he's cool, he has friends, he's on the student council, he's athletic, he's taller, he's got all these things going for him.
Yeah, they're both jealous of each other, right? Like,
which is why I was just like, kind of like, oh, I thought Mob was looking up to him as an older brother, or as the younger brother, which I thought, and then it kind of just, I don't know, it didn't really change the story too much, obviously, but I thought that was very bizarre. Again, not in a bad way, but just.
Yeah, I think it's a good choice to do, because I think if you were an older brother, I mean, I don't have siblings, so maybe siblings can chime in here, but like, I guess in my estimation, if you're the older brother, so you already have like a little bit of that edge in the dynamic, and you're also like good looking and popular and great at everything, and like you're missing one thing, maybe you're just happy that your younger brother has like a skill that they're good at. But when you're the younger brother, you're trying to live up to that, and it's like, if you've been focusing on the psychic power, all your other accomplishments don't mean as much to you, because you're like trying to live up to Mob. And like, I think there's a key point was that Mob wasn't great at a lot of things, but he was good at the one thing Ritsu cared the most about, I guess.
Yeah, I think that it was a nice touch with Ritsu to make him the younger brother, because it sort of flips the mentality where in anime we're so used to seeing the older brother as a protector, the cool one, the person with all the knowledge, the role model. And Ritsu kind of flips that on its head by being those archetypes for Mob, despite being older than him, because Mob is so, not really built so well socially. Is dealing with a lot internally, that sort of thing. He's still obviously a protector for Ritsu when it counts, like, towards the end of the season and everything. But in general, in day-to-day life, like, Ritsu helps him navigate, and that's, shown with their flashback to when they're lost in the woods, and Mob, it gets them lost or whatever, looking like going out exploring, and Ritsu's like, dude, don't worry about it. We'll go find out. I'll find our way out, and we'll be back to barbecuing already. And I like that they have that sort of back and forth where they're there for each other when the other one needs them, and it's not just always like, I'm the big brother, I'm going to protect you, I'm the one who has like the power dynamic sort of thing. It's a lot more of an even keel in their family relationship. And you can even see that with how their like parents treat them and stuff too. Their parents are very like laid back and obviously care about both their sons despite how odd they may be. Good family dynamic, basically, is what I'm trying to say.
I just think it's really cool that, you have Ritsu as his character of sort of, I guess he's probably in the top 1% of like coolest kids at the school, but still idolizes his brother for the person that he is. And I think like that's a really cool way to like look up to your brother in a way that the other people in the cast don't see him. And like, that's why Ritsu is so like tight with his brother. And I thought that was just, as somebody who has two brothers, I thought that was just like really cool, because like I look up to my older brother in a different way to how I look up to my younger brother. And sort of that dynamic in the show was handled really well.
I think the family in general, like family, it's nice to actually have an anime where, you know, the family isn't perfect, but it's pretty damn close. Like they're all pretty great people, which is nice, and they're all present. And again, it even Reigen kind of falls into that too, with being, albeit a bit of a weird role model, someone who's twice the age of Mob, and exploiting him a tiny bit. He still has a good, like, maybe father figure is the wrong word, but like the guide to through life, and he's a very
Man's gotta eat.
yeah, he does. You know, he provides a different perspective on things that I think really helps Mob grow as a character and start and continue his journey as an Esper, as a psychic, whatever you would want to call him.
I think if you're like only watching season or have only seen season 1 and you're iffy on Reigen, there's a reason why he is my favorite anime character of all time. The sort of the things that he goes through in Mob Psycho will make you fall in love. If you love the cast now, like just wait, because this show develops so many of the characters, including the side characters and multiple of the side characters. That just is one reason why I resonate with this show so much, because like you see the flaws of someone like Reigen and you're like, okay, you know, the circumstances that he puts himself into, he kind of gets like a slap on the wrist in season 1. I don't think it's as punishable as maybe you think it is, but like that's not going to be the case. And it's like that for a lot of the other characters, where if there are risks or if there's something involved with the cast that you think should warrant something more, you get that with Mob. And it's something that I just cannot stress enough, where it only gets better from here. Like it gets so much better. Season 2 is like a masterpiece. I think it's like ranked like 30th on Mal or something. Like it's so good. 34th.
For more information, look up Reigen Arataka
Mob Psycho Rule
no,
34.
Don't look that
yeah.
up. That's a child. Reigen Arataka in particular. That's a grown ass.
Well, I was saying the name of the show. That's my bad. Because that
I
is
thought
what
about that, and that's why I pivoted.
Well, you're smarter than me. This did bring me to the other topic I wanted to discuss, though, which is of course Rule 34. Which is Reigen in like general. So like I think Pete gives like a pretty good breakdown. But for people who haven't watched all of the show or even any more of the show, are seeing him for the first time, I guess I would like to know your opinions of him, because he's just such an interesting character, because he's a con man. He's not exactly a good person. Like he's conning people, but he does seem to have some amount of moral code. And I think it's pretty easy to tell that deep down, he is a good person. The advice he gives Mob, I think everyone would agree, is good. I think everyone would agree that he cares about him, in that even though he gets sort of a benefit from it, he thinks that nurturing Mob is important because he cares about Mob and because Mob is kind of scary. Are my
right.
sort of takes, are sort of my takes from it. But I'd like to hear from Jay and Pat. Kat, I don't know if you've watched any more of this.
I watched season 3 when it's coming out.
Okay, great. So we can get to like you and if Pete has anything else to say, but I want to hear from the people who are experiencing the character for the first time.
Yeah. Oh, you can go ahead, Pat. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. No. I was just gonna quickly say, like, I think I can see why he's one of Pete's favorite characters. He is hilarious, and I do like you said, he does have a moral compass, and he's very similar to like Aqua from Konosuba.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Whoa.
Well, where the joke is that he's a con man, or that he's useless, blah blah blah. Well, maybe not that he's useless in this, but like, yeah, well, he is though, because he doesn't have psychic powers. He's kind of useless in a way, but like he's not. He's very resourceful. He's a quick thinker.
He's a glue guy.
He's smart. He's very like talented at the skills that he has, which are he's got good charisma. He's got a lot of different things that melt into a good character, even if, again, like the initial thought was nefarious. He's not a bad person. Which, so like, I joked when I watched the first episode, I was like, rumor, what, AO, like what's Reigen doing? No, he's very far from that, which is why I think he's such a likable character, because how many of us are faking it through life too? Like I'm putting my hand up. I'm not on webcam right now, but we're faking it. Fake it till you make it, right? And he
Every
seems
day.
to do that every goddamn day. He does that, and he's making it work. So it's a pretty fun character to have. That is, especially in a show like this where, God, everyone is so OP. Which again, I'll talk about psychics later. But like, God, everyone is so OP. It's so dumb. But yeah, the Reigen specifically is not. But he is in his own way. He kind of matches their stride with how he handles himself and does things. But yeah, sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
Oh, no worries. First off, I see a lot of people describe Reigen as a scammer, and I understand the want to do that, but he's not actually scamming people like 95% of the time. Like, we see him do these things, and people come to him with like problems that aren't gigantic problems, and he solves them. He's just lying about how he solves them, which, sure, you can say that's morally wrong. But he does solve them, though. Secondly, the way the Mob as his employee. I am pro workers' rights 100%. I am union strong. But here's the thing. Reigen's doing it for the greater good. If he wasn't working Mob constantly, somebody else would find Mob and do that. Mob is a pretty like easy to influence person, all things considered. And if Reigen didn't like occupy if Reigen and the fitness club didn't occupy his time in the way that they do, you can guarantee like some claw member or somebody else trying to, use Mob for whatever nefarious reason will be doing that. So I think that Reigen, like, that kind of shows a lot about his character as a whole, and kind of like, they show it with his fighting style as well, how it's like, it's meant to be, it seems simple on the outside, but he's doing more without saying it. Like, there's a lot of care that goes into what he does, even if it is self-serving in many ways.
Yeah, so I guess a quick response to that is that I do think he's a con man. Like, and
he solves their problems. I don't understand
he
what
doesn't solve all of them.
So yeah,
he physically assaults one of them and knocks him out, like, because he can't communicate with his father.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up specifically as like is something
I said 95% of the time, didn't I?
You did.
Good point. It's something that I guess I would consider unethical would be like pretending you can talk to people's past loved ones, right?
Yeah.
And like, even if that guy was like actually just like trying to get the key to the safe or whatever, I don't like that sort of.
But did he solve their problem?
He didn't.
He did not.
Get the key
no.
to the safe. No.
95% of the time. 95% of the time.
Yeah.
I would give him more like 70. I think that's a safer.
We're splitting hairs here. We're splitting hairs here.
We are. I agree, but I do think it's.
Majority of the time he helps. Majority of the time he helps the client. Just not in the way they're expecting.
95% of the time, 70% of the time, he does it. I think he sort of judges people as connable or not, and that's how he goes. Like, because he doesn't like what like that group Claw is doing to kids, right? So he clearly has some line there. Like, he doesn't want to con kids because that's what he just sort of goes around thinking is happening. Because he isn't aware that everyone has psychic powers until he figures it out and is like, oh, I gotta go. Yep. My bad. So he's worried about like kids and like other vulnerable like groups of people and stuff. But then I also think like those people who were trying to scam Mob, he was like, okay, you're not good people, so I don't mind if I try to scam you.
Yeah.
Like that. So, you can take that or leave that. I thought that was a good bit. I liked it. It sort of shows he knows his kinship to them, but also where he's different than them, Like, I don't think any of us would say that Reigen is a worse person than those two people.
Yeah.
But I do think, like, while he's a different animal, he's the same beast. If anyone gets that.
He's Dexter season 1, season 2.
I wouldn't go that far.
Where, yes, he's a
he's not
serial
murdering
killer.
people.
Yes, he's a serial killer, but he's only killing bad people. So therefore, he's not as bad as the people he's killing.
Dexter doesn't murder people. What are you talking about?
I don't know if you've seen past season 2, but he definitely does.
No, he doesn't. No, they just vanish mysteriously and never come back.
Actually, I don't think they ever make Dexter kill an innocent person.
He kills Dobbs.
Cowards.
Spoilers.
Do you mean Dokes?
Surprise!
Whatever.
Surprise!
He does not kill Dokes.
Well, he was responsible for Dokes' death.
Kind of. I just watched a YouTube video on why
Honestly,
they never.
I couldn't make it through that show because of his sister. Honestly, I know I swear a lot on this show, but the amount she swore unironically turned me off from that show entirely.
I think she's hot.
Yeah.
I've never seen Dexter.
She does swear too much.
It's like every other word.
Yeah. I don't know, she's a cop.
All cops are, you know what?
Yep.
Bastards.
Yeah. And she's a hot one.
She gets away with
like
it.
Jon Snow.
Yeah, exactly. He's a hot bastard as well, or a cold one, I guess, depending on when in the series.
Perspective. Yeah.
Kat, do you have stuff to say about Reigen from someone who's like watched it, rewatching it, any new insight?
So Reigen is a very complex character, obviously, but one of the things that's really hard to place him as, and honestly, maybe you might be able to relate to this. I know that if any other Black person is listening to this, they may understand this. He's that one crazy ass uncle that talks a lot of stupid shit. Like, for me, that's my Uncle Kelvin. Does not know what the fuck he's talking about 95% of the time. But that 5% of the time, he gives you the best fucking advice. When he's running away from the police, you don't know that he's got 3 warrants out on him. He'll just drop you with some shit like, bro,
I had an idea.
you need to take care of yourself, take care of your wife, like, give you some of the most like pinpoint advice that you've ever heard of. But then about 5 minutes later, he'll just betray that advice. He just knows it, but he doesn't take it into account. Like shit like that. That's who Reigen reminds me of. And it brings me a lot of joy to know that, like, because I see a lot of myself in Mob, and the idea that he has some issues with a lot of things in life, and he's just trying to figure it out. So Reigen personally feels like one of those guys that it's advice in the place that you never really expect. And I get that I'm like relating this a lot to real life, but like this is the way that I've been looking at Mob recently. Because I mean, for the most part, it's a really good allegory for life and how to move along throughout your own life. So
I think that's good because there's a lot of elements of Mob that people can like really relate to. I think especially in the anime. And I think one thing that I really like about especially Mob as a character is 2 things. One, I think it's nice to have like a gentle male main character. I think a lot of times when you see this role played, I think of like Toru Honda from like Fruits Basket, where it's just like she's pure and caring for like everyone around her. Normally, especially in shonen, when you have a male main character, it's like I want to say like hot-headed, but like more on the aggressive side, where Mob really tries to at all points not engage in combat. Like, he is so passive. You see that in the Salt fight where he does not want to fight Taruki at all. Like, he consistently is super passive. I think like that idea of having a character kind of like show your power by not actually doing anything like that is really strong. I think it's a fantastic message that you can send out to people. But also with Mob, and it's another reason why I think he's just like an absolutely like generational main character, is like the fact that they don't like hide the fact that he has like autism. I think it's like a really cool representation of his character. They especially pointed out in the dub about how, like, you know, I have trouble understanding what people are thinking. I have a hard time of expressing myself. I have a hard time of trying to interact with groups and game with people. I'm like, these are all like main characteristics of this. And it's like, they don't shy away from it. A lot of times you get like hints and you get like bits and pieces like, oh, is this character maybe autistic or something like that? Mob is just like, no, this is who Mob is as a person. And he accepts who he is as a person and tries to better himself. And I think that's one thing that I love about Mob, is because you see this in the different seasons of how he tries to progress himself as a person. And in season 1, it's more of his character is trying to be the person who he thinks he wants to be. He wants to be popular. He wants to be popular by getting strong. He wants to get strong by joining the body improvement club. And so these are all things that he thinks he needs to do in order to be a better person, or like the person he's trying to be, but it's not the person who he is. And I think like that representation of a character is so rare in anime these days that that's what sparks something with Mob. That's why he's tattooed on my arm. Like, it's just such a great representation of a character that we don't see in, I would say, this form of media a lot. And I just gotta give credit where credit's due. I love Mob, and I don't know if anybody else feels that way or caught that stuff when watching Mob, but like it's legit. Like, him and Reigen are like, they mean so much to me.
Is that why our workout channel in the Discord is
That is
called
correct.
Body
Yes,
Improvement Club?
that is 100%.
Oh, it just clicked for me. That's cool. All right, that's fun. You guys should join the Discord, by the way. Sick plug, Pat.
Join the Body Improvement
Pat.
Club.
The bit where Mob joins the Body Improvement Club, where it sets it up to make you think he's going to join the Esper Club or whatever, I thought was so funny.
It was great.
I just just the shock from like everyone involved. And I also love the Body Improvement Club just like as a group too.
Yes.
You see them give multiple sort of outcasty characters like a chance. You know, it's like, as long as you're interested in what we're interested in, like, even if you're not, we're fine with you, but like, it doesn't matter how you are as long as you positively like engage with us. Like, even when Onigawara gets like framed and everything, like, they're willing to support him, you know, not in a way that like encourages that alleged behavior or anything, but just in like a way where it's like, look, if you want to work on bettering yourself, we're here for you. And, you know, I like that aspect of the show. And I think it's sort of like, you know, so many, like, it buttresses, right? Like what you were talking about with like Mob and Reigen's relationship. I think there's so much of this show sort of feeds into that dynamic of like trying to figure out who you are and who can help you do that and what can you do yourself and all of that. So
I also really like the motive behind the Body Improvement Club as well, mainly in the fact that like it's kind of like, because the thing that we see in a lot of media is like, you know, you try and join a club, that club is not interested in you, they don't want to deal with you, they don't like you, and even though they don't know anything about you, it's just really hostile. When in reality, a lot of clubs like that really want you to be in them. They really want you to join. They want you to be interested in the same thing that they're interested in, because that's who humans are. We're better with strength in numbers. And a lot of times, a lot of people want to be with other people who have the same interests as them. No matter what that interest is, no matter how good you are, no matter if you're like fucking like, you know, LeBron James, or, you know, you've got a fractured leg, but you're still trying to hobble on it. Like that type of thing. And that's one of the things that I really enjoyed about it. It's supposed to be seen as or it's not really supposed to be seen as that, in my opinion, but like you can see it as a comedic moment where the Body Improvement Club is running laps and then Mob is like a couple 100 feet back just struggling, and everybody's still like waiting on them, like hoping that he won't drop, and like pumping him up. That's what I really enjoy about this show.
I mean, you can compare it to like us in anime, where like if you are like me and you've seen 1,000 animes or something like that, or if you've seen 10, like as long as you're like interested in like that specific thing, like I am engaged with you. Like we share that. And I think the Body Improvement Club does a great example of showing where it's like we are accepting of everybody. Like if you, I should say like only if, but like they definitely have like that tie with Mob because he shows the effort, even though he's like not on the same level as them. He puts in the effort to try to be in the group, and in response, they show camaraderie, they show brotherhood, they protect, they do all these things, and it's like I love that. Like I love that representation of like a group of people who share like a similar passion, kind of like what we do, and. I mean, they're just the best boys. Like they're such a great group of characters where like they're always there for Mob and they're always there for each other, but like in a sense of where like the show isn't super serious. It is played as a comedic effect, but it also has that effect of real camaraderie in the show, which is another reason why I think Mob is just an absolute masterpiece of just blending these different elements together into one, and it all makes sense. It like everything makes sense except for Pat with psychic powers, but like outside of that, everything else makes sense.
Yeah, well, it's finally nice to see some proper representation of gym bros as well, as a guy who's been around them most of my life. Like they 90, obviously they're the bad apples, whatever in the bunch, but the 95% of them, to use Jay's statistic, 95% of them are just like the guys in this show that are just like, if you're trying to make yourself better, then great, you're one of us, and we'll support you. We'll protect. We'll help you out. We're there for you. Which is that was really fun. I really loved. Yeah, like I talked about a little earlier, the side characters. All of them have their own little quirk and their thing to them. I really liked how they also the bully or whatever, the outcast guy with the JoJo haircut. He was welcomed to them too, right? Like he immediately was welcomed with and a part of their group again, because he showed that he wanted to be better. He wanted to change, and I really liked that a lot.
You talk about Onagawa or whatever.
Onigawara, yeah.
It's so funny that he's just like, oh, the teachers are here. It's ruined by perfect attendance record. It's like that dude has the perfect attendance record. I love that.
I love that because I think it adds depth to it.
Oh, 100%.
Like,
but it's because like One is so good with this with like One Punch Man, because the same guy who does One Punch Man did Mob, where sort of like, yes, it's a parody-esque, but like it's I think like subverts the trope enough where it's like, nah, this is fucking great. Like I love this.
I'm gonna make a really weird comparison here. So in Bo Burnham's album Inside, if people have
Jeffrey Bezos.
Yeah, okay. There is a song called White Woman's Instagram, which I adore because it starts off just like sort of making fun of like stereotypical white women Instagram posts. And then like the last verse, it like is like very like personal posts like she made about like her mom passing and like all this stuff. And it reminds you of the humanity of this person that's been like a little bit of a punching bag. And then it sort of like tricks you, the listener, into being like, oh, like I was sort of in on the, joke, but this is a real person, right? Like these are all real people that we're like referring to. And I think it does that with Onigawara, where, the idea is like, okay, we've only seen him sort of be a punk and like lead, like a freaking gang of middle schoolers into war with other middle schoolers, and then you find out like he has like perfect attendance and he's tried really hard to do that. And he like cares about this academic aspect, even if he's maybe not the greatest at it, and so I just thought that was really good. And I think the show does that for like a lot of characters. Shows, you don't need to give every character an insane backstory to add depth to them. You don't need to hear like, the like a monologue or something, which is something a lot of anime likes to do. It likes to just sort of tell you a whole bunch about a thing. But I think the show in very like simple ways adds depth to characters, and I really appreciate that.
Couldn't agree more.
I also like the fact that they add depth to characters well before they die, if they die at all.
And it's always good to do, because I hate, that's like my least favorite anime trope, is when you know someone's gonna die because they do a flashback and they're like, all I want to do when I grow up is live forever. And it's just like, oh, you're dead, buddy. Oh no. I do want to say really quickly though, one quick negative about this show: Hanazawa's haircut. Wig thing. I remember thinking it was the stupidest thing in the world, and when I rewatched it, I still thought it. Take that for whatever it's worth.
Do we want to get into actual negatives on my end?
Yeah, I'm curious about your thoughts on that, because I definitely I can see places where it would, the scaling isn't real, right? So like that'll probably bother you. My counter to that, I do have one, but if you want to go, please do.
Yeah, well, yeah, again, and this is leaning closer in my eyes to the and my scale of enjoyment of the psychic powers and how they're expressed and how they are relevant in the story, I guess. Definitely leaning more towards the elfin lead side of like actually liking it, because they do visualize it pretty well in the show, I think, than it was on the contrary with Shinsekai Yori, where it was frustrating for me to watch. I think that I think I talked about it a little bit earlier, but like how I think the show starts off very strong and then gets a little meh in the middle, but then picks it right back up with that final arc. I thought that final arc was really well done. I think it's just that I really just hate psychic powers, and and they, like you mentioned, the scaling was just so abstract especially in the middle of the show. It was kind of just, all right, this happens, and oh, this person does this time, and then they do this. Like I don't know. I didn't really like the couple episodes where Mob and Hanazawa were at arms. I didn't really find that arc very, very interesting, because it's like, well, who's stronger? How do we know? What's but then once they actually started working together, and I know it's Mob. Obviously, it's Mob. Yes, but like you know, what I mean, but it's just like, but how does that make sense? How does that work with this? I don't know. I just hate it. Like it's such an like psychic powers always to me will be such an.
His name's in the title.
I know. They're always such an ass pull though, because it's like, how is he training them? How is he improving them?
Yeah.
I thought the using he's at 80%, he's at 60%, whatever, like agitation level, anger meter, whatever you want to call it, toughness rank, like for my fellow college football video game players, like the stadium pulse, whatever bullshit. I don't know, like that was somewhat cool of a way to show it throughout, as it kept growing or going up and down throughout the story, but again, he's just so overpowered because he's psychic. The psychics are overpowered, and they're not. I hate it as a power system. That's like, again, the one knock on the show. But again, I think they do it a better job than most psychic shows do, and especially visually with the fights. I thought that there were some really cool aspects. So, like a good example, I think would be when Hanazawa was fighting the fire guy. How he used his psychic powers, even though they're not defined, to then outwit or outdo the fire guy. I thought that was cool. That's very interesting. And those fights were really well done. But then also at the end of the day, it's like, well, what are his powers? Because it seemed like every other psychic person had a very specific type of power other than Mob.
Hanazawa? Yeah, he's telekinesis. They say that in the fight with Mob at the Salt Middle School.
Yeah.
But Mob is just everything.
Mob is the compass of essentially all.
He's like the epitome of it.
Yeah. The scaling is as such, because I sort of do agree with you. Like, if you're just watching Hanazawa fight and then like Orb guy fight, it's sort of hard to tell why one is stronger than the other or whatever. You just sort of have to take their word for it.
Yeah.
And like that's fine with me, but I understand not wanting that, right? To like want to be able to grok it like a little bit better. For the scaling, what I would say though is like part of the reason I don't have any issue there is because Mob is stronger than everyone else. And that is the entire scale and what is important.
Yeah.
You can see the similarities to like One Punch Man, right? Where like the battle is actually getting Saitama to a location, right? Like the battle isn't Saitama fighting someone. It's, okay, is he here? If not, is there something blocking his way? And how does he get here? And how do we survive until he gets here? With Mob, it's like the battle is like Mob talking to them, the emotional impact they do on him, like that is sort of like the actual battle. And so like there's a nice little number that goes up and you know what's happening, as you pointed out.
I want to say like the beauty of Mob, it's throughout the entire seasons, that the fights almost essentially don't matter. Like the outcome and the results of like the big messages and that they're trying to send throughout the story don't come from like who is stronger and why. It's like the whole thing is like a allegory for coming of age. Like the whole thing, including like him fighting people. Like it doesn't matter like who's stronger than the other person. Like it's not Dragon Ball Z or something like that where scaling might matter or something like that. But it's like none of it matters because Mob is the strongest. He's always going to be the strongest. And like you said, if he's there, he wins.
The positives of it is that just because Mob is the strongest doesn't mean that he is going to win the fight. I mean, sure, the actual physical fight, but the emotional impact of the confrontation is where like the actual battle takes place.
Yeah.
And that's what matters. And that's like the thing that really impacts me personally.
The kryptonite of Mob isn't like another person. It's like the people surrounding him and like the actions that he has to take in order to like avoid like destruction or like friendly fire or something along like those lines of like hurting other people. Like that is what the kryptonite is for Mob. And it's like, oh, God, I just love it. I want you to watch season 2. I want you to watch season 3 and want you to see how these conflicts get handled in like the battle scenes, because it's, oh my God, chef's kiss. I want to spoil, but I can't. Please watch Mob.
Yeah, I get where you guys are coming from, where it doesn't matter. Like, it's like that's a lot of the time. It's not just the psychics complaint only. It happens in plenty of battle shonen or in plenty of other, thing. Like the protagonist wins because he has to keep the story going, right? So like that's not necessarily the frustration I have. I guess it's I don't know, because it felt like they did it well in multiple fights, which is why it felt especially out of place during the ones that it didn't. So I guess another good example would be like Ritsu. Like I could hardly tell, was he actually psychic? Like what was going on? Like what were his powers? What, I don't know. By the end of it, I guess it figures it out that he just has a little bit of what Mob has, but like, like there's a lot of that going on, which maybe it gets clarified better in season 2, which is another reason I don't think that this show gets like, again, I'm sitting here complaining about this this thing, but at the end of the day, it did not affect me enough to be like, oh, the show sucked by any means either. Like I very much enjoyed watching it. I just wish that they had like guns instead of psychic powers or something.
You'll love season 2.
Yeah, I saw they pulled a gun out in the last episode or second to last episode. That was fun. I thought that was pretty silly. I don't know. So again, my psychic complaints are just more me being bitter. Oh, yeah. God damn it. I just dropped my ear of corn on my computer. God damn it.
Happens to the best of us.
Country girls make do.
It's a new sentence.
I have something that I want to talk about real quick.
Yeah, no, of course.
I guess this is like a very unique art style. I think we can all agree that it can be wacky at some points, but I think like the animation was on point. Did the art style pull people away from like really enjoying the show? Because I've seen people not specifically start this show because of how it looks.
So
Nah, man. You already know. I love highly stylized stuff, so that was a plus for me.
me personally, I thought it played heavily into that like stylized type of thing, where honestly, few theories and shit like that. Like I felt like even though one doesn't really draw that well, he's more of an author than more of an author than he is an illustrator.
100%.
But like I feel like the way that like Mob is drawn and the world is drawn, like it's meant to show that when the world gets stylized, it's not necessarily supposed to be like that. Like in an allegorical sense of the word, where like when it's stylized, when it's really nice and sharp, when Mob goes like into his super powerful psycho phase or whatever, that is when like that's when he's not off the hook, but like he's going berserk. He can't really control what's happening around him. When it's sloppy, when he can perceive but can't necessarily easily figure out what he needs to do, that's where like 99% of what happens. And I feel like that's a positive of it. Now, when it comes to like the actual like pulling people off, I know that my friend who's an old head will not start the show because he likes the clean lines and shit. I feel like that's a choice, but I also really implore him to watch the show despite that, because I feel like it transcends that.
I didn't care for the art style very much. It's definitely one of the things that held me back from watching it in the first place as well. But it didn't bother me as much as I thought it might while I was watching it too. I guess that's the way I would put it.
Yeah, that I would say similar for me. Like I have friends who haven't watched this, but they're not like super into anime or anything, just because they don't like the art style. And if you're not watching like a ton of anime and you don't like something about it, like I get just skip it on over. Like for me, like I like the stylized bits, and like I guess people who have seen enough of this know I really like stylized art. But I don't know. I think a lot of this is like not great looking. Mostly Hanazawa's haircut. Like, when he gets the wig, and
For me, it's the sweat. They look like Junji Ito people melting.
Yeah, I don't know. They just like really committed to the hair thing. To me, that's my own version of a Junji Ito.
That's your spiral.
Yeah, like so. Some people were like, oh my god, Uzumaki, so scary. And then like this, I was like, oh my god, why are you committing to this bit, Mob Psycho 100? Just please stop. This is horrifying. I don't know. It's not my favorite art style, but it didn't really bother me too much. It's very like there's the dude with like the pompadour. Like I kind of wish he didn't have that. And then like one of the guy's head is just like a cube. And like I wish he didn't have that.
Ooh, tomato. I loved Minecraft Steve.
Free free produce. But yeah, I don't know. It's fine. And like the animation itself is like great, right? Like it looks really fucking fluid.
They whitewashed Steve in this too, which is it's criminal.
Whitewashed Steve.
Unbelievable. Yeah. 0 out of 10.
They can't get away with this.
They can't.
Oh my goodness.
I'm not watching season 2 simply because they whitewashed Steve. Unbelievable.
Some people will watch it specifically because they whitewash Steve.
That's true.
Yeah.
I hope not many of our listeners.
K-On profile pictures.
Shout out.
K-On profile. Do that, yeah.
Shout out redacted.
Oh dear God.
God.
Trent, bleep that, please.
God. That was funny.
Trent, blow it up. Adam.
Yeah, Flash's address on the screen.
Yeah.
A Google map, Earth map of it.
Oh dear God. Before we wrap up, then, do we have any other topics we want to discuss really quickly?
I'm indifferent about the OP. I'm sorry.
Wow,
I'm sorry.
that's a hot take.
I don't think it's.
That's a pretty hot take.
Work out
I
to
know it
it.
is.
Work out to it, bud.
No, I'm not. I don't think it's bad. I'm kind of like, all right, she's counting. Cool.
That does
Like-
make it good to work out to, though, right? Like,
I suppose it does. It would be a good workout.
It's not just her counting; they're counting.
The
yeah,
mob
it's the
choir,
mob choir.
Mob choir.
Oh, is it? Okay. Well,
Yeah.
that changes everything. No, it's. I don't know. I just thought it was like,
When
all right,
somebody
this is
says
cool.
something so Southern phobic, you just have to give them that New Orleans stare.
Yeah. Sorry, I thought but the second song, or the OP for season 2 isn't it just 100.1 or something like that?
99.9. You
99.9.
fool!
Oh.
You're off point
Yeah.
2.
0.2 off. That I mean, again,
And then we
percentages,
have
too.
1.
one.
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 They just
is
count
the
one.
OP for
It's the entire OP, and 3, they just go 1. That's the end.
Wow.
One and only one.
Yeah.
Might be my
and then
favorite anime OP all time.
the ED, they go 2.
Do they actually do that in the ED? Is it
No.
called
No.
2?
No, none of that is real.
No,
I-
they
I
None of
just
it's
like-
real? No way.
Everything I just said was a lie.
They just play
Oh.
It Takes Two.
It takes 2 to make a dream go right.
They do 1 is the loneliest number, and then the ED, they just finish the line from the Beatles song.
That's not a Beatles song. That's a song by
Holy
Yes.
shit. Is it really?
Yes.
Oh my god.
Yes.
No, is that the Beatles?
No, sorry. I'm thinking of Owner of a Lonely Heart. My bad.
Okay. 1 is the
You can
loneliest
see-
number is apparently a. Was this the Beatles?
That's
or
the
was it
Beatles for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. I was thinking, and then I was thinking of Sing With Me.
Okay,
Happens a lot.
That's by Faces.
People are screaming at me listening to this right now, by the way.
Wait, this
when I
is
said
someone
that. I heard
songwriter
it.
Harry Nielsen. Oh wait, this is the AI thing. I don't fucking.
It's the Beatles. Trust me.
Okay,
We
okay.
can move on.
Hasn't AI ruined Google? Isn't it terrible?
It really
It's
is
the worst.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so bad.
Okay, wait.
It's wild that Bing is now the better search engine.
I don't think it's the Beatles.
Hold on, Kat. Even with AI, Google's
I
still
use
better than
Ask-
Bing.
I have found more with
Look,
Bing lately than I have with Google.
What
Bing-
trust me.
exactly have you found more of on Bing, Cat? Out of curiosity.
Yeah, what are you
You
binging,
can
bro?
Google Mob Psycho 100.
Literally any-
R34.
Literally trying to figure out how to fix my fucking engine. Bing has been better than Google has been.
Did you fix
I
it?
have. I've been trying.
Did
yeah.
you fix your engine?
See, back in my see,
Because if you
just
didn't
ask an
fix it,
old-
then Bing sucks.
just ask an old man.
I'm not gonna ask an old
They're
man. out
the
here.
original Google.
Yes,
I don't think the Beatles did this.
they did. Final thoughts. Let's do it.
Okay. They didn't.
Hey, Miles, what are your final thoughts on who did that song?
Yeah, my final thoughts are unless Wikipedia is
It was
lying to
Harry
me,
Nielsen.
Oh,
It was Harry Nielsen, and then it was covered by Three Dog Night.
Like I said, that's the
Um,
Beatles.
Okay.
I just want to move on.
I know, but like I'm just my mind is very blown.
You're about to say Three Doors Down.
It was Three Doors Down. I
I can't believe
It was
Saliva
in the
covered
Lego
this.
Batman movie.
I genuinely can't believe that Trent Reznor said that 1 was actually a Johnny Cash song. So I enjoyed this show. I suggest people watch it. I suggest people watch more of it. I think it's a very easy watch. I think it's a good starter anime. I think it's a good ender anime.
That's it.
You could- yeah,
Yeah, last anime ever. Sorry, guys.
you could watch it sort of whenever or wherever you want. Much like Shakira.
Yeah, I
it'll
was
be there for you.
I'll be there. And you'll be
yeah,
there.
yeah, and that's
Lucky
Deal
for
my
your
hero,
breasts,
whatever
they're
it is.
small and humble.
yes, so that I won't confuse them for mountains.
Unlike Shakira's.
Unlike Mob
text.
Psycho, which is peak.
Yes. And that peak is specifically an 8 out of 10.
We take those.
An 8 out of 10? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Kat, what about you?
So for me, taking the jokes out of it, for me, this is a great show. If I can see this being a very good show, if you're like not necessarily in the mood for an anime, but like just want to shut your brain off and watch something. But if it hits you at the right time,
What are you saying?
If you're in the right mood for this show and you watch it when
and you
you're
wanna
in that
shut your
mood,
brain
Is
off.
Cat having a stroke?
Fuck.
if you're going through what Kat is going through in this precise moment, you'll
I was gonna crash their car thinking they're smelling burning toast listening to that.
Sorry, I had a strong. Leave me alone.
A strong? Yeah, you are having a strong.
Hot potato, hot potato.
Sorry. If you are, this is a great show for anybody. Period. In my opinion. Don't do that, Miles. This is a great show for anybody. Period. In my opinion. But but if you are at a point where you are able to be hit by this show emotionally, this can change your life personally, because it can open your eyes to some of these things. Like, it's a great coming of age story, and it can genuinely change the way that you look at the world. Now, I was not personally at that point, but like, I can see somebody.
I'm sorry.
All right.
What's your score?
It's a 9 out of 10. Leave me alone. Leave me alone.
What did he give it?
What an array of emotions I just got from Cat. It can change your life, but if you want to shut your brain off,
what did he score it?
a 9.
A 9? Okay.
All right, Jay. Jay, it's your turn to follow. How do you follow that without Jay?
Yeah.
Oh
You're
my
fucked,
god,
bro.
Yeah, give me 1 second. Okay.
Look, Kat,
All
my
right.
Adderall wears off too. I feel you, buddy.
Jesus Christ. I feel like Kat just psychically assaulted me, which is very in theme with the show. So I think that this show has a lot to offer, mostly in terms of like the characters and the relationships between those characters. Like I said, I think that the biggest part of the show is its potential and where the story could go from here for me personally, as someone who has not watched or read anything else and has more or less stayed completely spoiler free for everything that happens after this. I just, avoided it somehow when all of the season was coming out, besides for Pete saying that it was a little bit weird at the start. So looking forward to getting that and figuring out what that was about. Music is good. I personally really enjoy the art style and the stylization of it. They did a good job of cleaning it up from the webtoons or webcomic, / manga version of it, which is very rough if you've ever seen a volume of it in person. Like, they did a really good job cleaning this up. The effects they add to the fights and everything, while the fights aren't a super important part, they are very entertaining. And I'm excited to see how they kind of escalate that with how I assume that they're going to like raise the stakes in general with Claw and everything. I think that overall I agree with Miles for the most part, and I think that this is probably the most 8 out of 10 show I've ever watched, mostly because of the potential there. I'm going to also echo Pete a little bit, where I think my score later on for this could raise up higher, like Mob's Psychometer, if the rest of the seasons are better. So 8 with the potential to raise up higher is where I'm going to go with it.
Nice. I agree with you that I think my score could also be moved up depending on where it goes from here. I think that's a very valid statement, because like nobody knows what's going to happen next here, right? But like, imagine if it just shits the bed. You never know, right? Yeah, wink, wink. Obviously, it does not. Pete, go ahead. What about you?
Okay, I can absolutely understand, because the first time that I watched Mob, I gave this an 8, and then I realized sort of the setting stones of what this season does for the rest of the series makes it why it's a 10. Like there are things that you just don't realize that they set up for that have such a huge impact. You're like, oh my God, that was brilliant. It's the same thing with any Berserk fans out there when I read like Golden Age and everyone's like, oh, this is the best arc of all time, blah, blah, blah. And I read, I'm like, yeah, that was a pretty good arc. And then you realize how that set up everything for the story. It's like, oh, that's why it's goated. It's the same
They
reason.
never adapt anything past it, huh?
Technically they did, but I don't count
yeah,
it.
Okay. Yeah. No, none of us did.
In terms of just mob and it's so hard for me just to judge this specific season, so I'm not going to. I think like this cast is on par with one of the best casts in anime history. Like for me, it's like this Golden Kamuy, like Full Metal Alchemist. Like it's that level of casting where like so many characters get the time needed to flesh out whatever role they're playing in the series. And I think that's such a testament of how good the writing is for this series. The animation, we really didn't touch on it. The production of this show is just like top tier. This is one of the examples of like Bones hits it out of the park. Like lately, it used to be like 70%. Now it's more like 40%, but like this is the time where Bones just killed it. To me, this is the best animation Bones has ever done, especially season 2. I love everything about it. I think Mob is a generational main character. I think he encompasses so much that I want to see in anime, along with Reigen just being like a hodgepodge of seriousness, comedic effect, overarching just good guy / bad guy stuff that he does throughout the entire series. I love him so much. He is like the best flawed, perfect character in anime history. This is an easy 10 for me. I fucking love Mob.
Okay, have you down for a 9, buddy?
Okay, you could.
There you go. I also am going to be giving this an 8 out of 10. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. I'm glad I did watch it at the end of the day. It was kind of a fun bit to have going for a while that I wouldn't. So yeah, the art really still is not my favorite thing. But I agree production wise though, they did an awesome job with them. I thought the voice actors did a very good job. I didn't really like I actually started with the dub and then switched to the sub because I didn't particularly like the dub after the first half of an episode, I should say. So I didn't really give it a full chance or a full college try, I guess, but I liked the sub a lot. I thought they did a good job with like tone and the voices being unique and different from each other as well. And yeah, I am very curious to see where it goes from here. So next time I'm forced to watch it, I will watch more of it happily rather than trepidatiously. God, why am I failing English?
We got you. No worries. That's like a 7-syllable word or something, or like 4. But like, you're good.
yeah. Thank you. So 8 out of 10 for me. I think this like the Mal rating is an 8.49, and like I think like 8.5 is somewhere where I would reside right now. But I think I'm going to round down for now because I know I probably will round up if I keep watching the show. So we'll start at an 8 and see where it goes from there.
Cool.
But yeah, so Miles, since you have a actual computer in front of you and not one covered in corn like mine, what are the averages that we have? And yeah, why don't we get right into voting or what we voted on after as well?
Yeah, so average together, this is an 8.6, which is right around the 8.49 that the larger Mal community has given this. So this is also a show that we're all, bottom score of an 8, top score of a 10. That's a pretty good show. Let's get into what we're watching next, shall we?
Yay.
Okay. We have some shows earning some legacy points. Those shows are Rakugo Shinju,
Woo!
which came in 3rd. Domestic Girlfriend, which came in 2nd. In 1st place, we have Uma Musume Pretty Derby Season 2.
What?
Are you fucking kidding me?
Yep.
Let's go!
No, we're not kidding. This is us now. This is
oh my god!
Are you proud of yourself, Miles?
Do we have the best community ever? Like, oh my god!
Tell.
Everybody out there listening or watching, I love you. You guys are so smart. You're so attractive. Like, you make me look homeless by how well you all look out there. God, I love you guys.
And for that reason, I'm out.
That's the beauty of Watch Club. You don't have to show up if you don't want to. Except for me.
It had like, so Domestic Girlfriend came in second, and it has like a 2-point lead on it. And, I was talking to Pat, I was like, people still got to vote. It's fine. We're fine. 4 people, I think, voted. And just across from those two, just not affecting anything.
Just the best.
So really, Kat is the person who voted last.
Let's go, Kat.
I couldn't vote for Domestic Girlfriend.
What?
Yeah, I couldn't vote for Domestic Girlfriend.
Oh, did you nominate it?
Yeah.
Okay. School.
That's crazy.
Let's go.
Yeah. Well, and I guess it's a good time to mention it since we were talking about it earlier today. If you would like to vote in our on shows like what we're talking about right now, join the Discord, and we will now, instead of having just club members roll, we'll also have a voting roll that we will call the Watchers. An executive decision.
Voters.
No. We're calling it the voters. But no, I think you can be the Watchers and come join us and vote and have as much of an impact on what shows we watch as myself, Miles, Pete, Jay, and Kat do. So please come join us, and more votes, more fun it is for us. And yeah, so I guess it's time to talk about what we're nominating for 2 weeks from now to vote on now. So Miles, what are you nominating now that your show,
yes,
Uma Musume Pretty Derby
3.
season 2, season 2.
You won't nominate season 3, you coward. You won't do it.
No,
Miles, I'll be legitimately mad at you if you do that shit 2 times in a row. I'm not.
No, dude.
I want to watch this shit 3 times in a.
You'll do it. You'll do it the following
Yeah.
time. I gotcha.
No, I did it. Look, I did it this time because I couldn't decide between the Great Gatsby quote and the Nietzsche quote, and I thought this was like a good way to like fit both of them in. You know how like a bunch of people in England like voted for Brexit is like to like show, they didn't like really want it to happen, but they did want to show that they were like dissatisfied with the government. They were like, oh no, the consequences of my own actions. Anyways, I'm gonna be nominating Mobile Suit Gundam, War in the Pocket.
No, I'm not going to vote for it just to punish you. Is the thing.
Fair.
Smart.
That's fair.
No, you're punishing us then by not voting for it. No.
I can I've already seen it. I don't care.
I want to see it. Kat, what about you? What have you got?
Vote for it.
I'm trying. I'm. God, that shit hit me like a ton of bricks. Anyway, let's go Domestic Girlfriend again.
Oh yeah, that'd be so fun to talk about. Oh, it'd be so much fun.
I gotta say, Kat, I totally did not think that was a you nomination, so you could have gotten away with it.
Well, excuse me, because some of us try to play all the rules. So.
No, which I truly appreciate, because I would have just been like, oh yeah, Pat must have nominated that or something.
It is a very Pat nomination.
Yeah, and then just given it 3 points. So.
But yeah, all right, Jay, what about you?
I'm gonna nominate Orange.
Uma Musume Pretty Derby Season 3. Orange.
All right, Pete, what about you?
I'm actually a little shocked that I got a legacy point, but I'm happy that I'm gonna re-up Rakugo Shinju.
It did well. It was within striking distance as well.
Let's run it.
Let's see if Kat could have made that win. Yep.
All right.
Good thing you didn't vote for it, Kat.
I wasn't super interested in it, so
that's fair.
No, it like, it's like, unfortunately you missed the shot in the clutch, and like technically it doesn't matter when you miss it. Everyone else missed the shots too, but like you're the Jason Tatum of this podcast.
I really am not. I'm really not.
You got just as many minutes as Kobe today.
Jason Tatum is a top 4 NBA player.
It was the last show Orange. Did someone come? Yeah. Oh no, you did Rakugo Shinju.
Rakugo Shinju then Orange.
Yeah.
Or Orange then Rakugo Shinju.
And then what am I gonna nominate? Do I stick with my guns of Surizuri Children, or do I go back to Princess Principal? I don't know.
Mob Psycho Season 2.
No, I'm not. I could use a break from that art style. My eyes are hurting. I will pick Princess Principal. I think we'll do the 2 or 3 movies that are out, whatever it is. because they're all like an hour long. So yeah, the movies. But yeah, I think that wraps up Watch Club. Pete, why don't you take it away?
Dope. If you have made it this far and you want to support us, the best way to do so, like, comment, subscribe, leave a review on whatever platform you're watching or listening to us on. Next week is a mailbag episode. So if you have any questions you want to send to us, so I guess we're recording this ahead of time, so you won't be able to. But look forward to that, I guess. If you had any questions, maybe we'll do a second one later. Who knows? Otherwise, if you're here for Watch Club, we'll see you in 2 weeks for Uma Musume Pre-Derby Season 2. Thanks, and we'll see you next time. Peace!
Bye-bye!